Hey, how's it going? It's FamKam, and today we're going to be talking about Bond. James Bond. Cheers. This is just water, don't worry. I would have a coughing fit if it was a real martini. Like I said, we're going to be talking about James Bond, specifically GoldenEye 007 for the Nintendo 64. And why are we talking about it? Simple, two reasons. One, it's one of my favorite games of all time. Has been since I was maybe 12, 13, whatever. It actually got me into the James Bond series. And also, more importantly, tomorrow, as of the day that this comes out, is the 25th anniversary of the US release of that game. And I'm really looking forward to it. And in this video, we're going to be talking about 15 crazy facts you don't know about N64's GoldenEye 007. I found an article from thedad.com listing these 15 facts. So I'm going to read through them and give my opinion on each of them. But before we get into it, I'd like to announce that tomorrow, the day of the anniversary of the game, the 25th anniversary of the game, I will be launching a new Twitch channel aside from my main ASMR Twitch channel, link below in the description. But I'm going to be launching another Twitch channel for non-ASMR gaming called FamKam Gaming, twitch.tv/FamKam Gaming. Link down below in the description for that as well. And tomorrow on the 25th at 8 p.m. Pacific time, I will be streaming GoldenEye 007 multiplayer with James Bond 235, because who better to do something James Bond related than James Bond himself, right? You should go check out James Bond 235 if you haven't seen him already. Do yourself a huge favor. He is an amazing ASMR artist and a great friend of the channel. His link's down below in the description as well. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the 15 crazy facts about GoldenEye 007. Number 1. It was originally going to be as a side-scrolling 2D shooter for the Super Nintendo, the SNES, the SNES. Martin Hollis, game director, instead proposed a 3D shooting game for the Nintendo 64 console, then still in development and known only as Ultra 64. He then created a document with all the design ideas he wanted in the game, including gadgets, weapons, characters to use, story digression from the film, and an artificial intelligence AI that will react to the player's actions. Now, that is really interesting because I've seen some documentaries talking about this. It was going to be formatted very much the way Donkey Kong Country is. Donkey Kong Country, of course, is a side-scrolling platformer with 3D rendered sprites, pre-rendered sprites. They were modeled and textured in 3D, and then each frame of them was pre-rendered. But as far as the game knows, it is made in 2D. It is read like a 2D game, so it runs smoothly on the very limited 16-bit hardware that is on the Super Nintendo. There are some games on the Super Nintendo that can run 3D, but they're rare, and they use the FX chip. But this game would have been a 2D side-scroller formatted similar to Donkey Kong Country, and that would have been interesting to see. I would love to see a James Bond game like that, particularly GoldenEye. Maybe somebody one day will make one and then MGM will send out a cease and desist. That actually happened recently. Somebody was remaking GoldenEye 007 with modern graphics, and MGM sent out a cease and desist. It was going to be GoldenEye 25 to be released on the 25th anniversary, mind you. But alas, it's not happening. Instead, they've made Spies Never Die, which I haven't played, but looks really awesome. Number 2. The team behind the game were relative amateurs. The majority of the team behind GoldenEye had never worked on a video game before. The rest were more familiar with 2D titles such as Donkey Kong Country, but those involved say at the time that was actually a plus because it was most people's first game. Composer Graham Norgate told Now Gamer back in 2011, "We did things that we might not do again because it was too much work." I can imagine. "We didn't take the easy route. If something sounded like a good idea, it was like, yeah, let's do it. The world was our oyster. Only afterwards would you find it was a world of pain." Absolutely. And not too many people know this, but when I was in college, I majored in computer graphics and took a lot of game development courses, and it was hell. I mean, yeah, I enjoy games, and making games is a cool thing to do, but I discovered in college that it wasn't exactly my forte. It wasn't exactly something I wanted to do as a lifelong career because of how much of a pain in the ass it was. But I don't know, maybe someday I'll get back into it and make my own independent game. I'm not saying I am, I'm saying I might. Not even a good chance, I might. But if I do, y'all will be the first to know. But anyway, number 3. Developers initially planned to let players reload weapons by unplugging and reinserting the rumble pack on the game controller. So for those who don't know what the rumble pack is, on the N64, it was a big, giant little device. Actually, you know what? Let me show you. This right here is the rumble pack. Most controllers today have a built-in motor for the controller to vibrate, but in the N64 days, not so much the case. Although PlayStation did have built-in rumble, but N64 did not. You had to plug this in the bottom of the controller and it would allow the controller to vibrate. And they wanted to have you unplug it and plug it back in to reload. That is insane because you unplug it and plug it back in while the game is on, aka hot swapping. That can ruin it. So I can see why they scrapped it. And holy crap, I didn't read what the article had to say about it, so let's read it. It says, yep, developer Steve Ellis says the idea was ultimately nixed by Nintendo. Nintendo wasn't keen on the idea, and I think it might have affected the pacing a bit. But holy shit, can you imagine? That's what it says in the article. Number 4. There was supposed to be 4 Bonds in the game. Sean Connery's Bond, along with Timothy Dalton's and Roger Moore's, were originally included alongside Pierce Brosnan's. Developer David Doak recalls it was right near the end of the game's development that the characters were pulled. The firm who held the license said it was a no-go. And a dick came down from on high, and we had to get rid of the other Bonds. So on the day we had to take them out, we played this epic death match, first to 100 kills, which went on for about 3 hours. Mark Edmonds played as Moore and won by 1 kill. It went down to the wire. The other Bonds exist in some of the game's promotional material and documentation. What's even cooler is that they left behind digital footprints in the game. Yeah, meaning the code of having those other 3 Bond actors in there still exists on the cartridge. That is insane. That is really insane to think about. Number 5. Much of the game is actually in black and white. Now this one I find to be a little bit tough to believe, but let's read into it. Carl Hilton, one of the designers in the project, says the N64's processor was only 3/4 of what the team had designed for. Their solution? Go old school. RGB color textures cost a lot more in terms of processing power. You could double the resolution if you used grayscale, so a lot was done like that. If I need a bit of color, I add it in the vertex. That's interesting. So a lot of the stuff you see in the game that does not have color on it, like the rocks on the dam that are black and white, I guess it was rendered in grayscale, so it wouldn't unnecessarily take a lot of space. That is brilliant. Number 6, Super Mario 64 changed everything. David Doak told Now Gamer that when Super Mario 64 was released, the developers, like many players, were floored. When Mario arrived, it was clearly a step forward. Martin was obsessed with the collision detection, which was obviously doing it in 3D, and GoldenEye was essentially using a 2D method. And our story was only about shooting stuff. We needed other things. We started putting in objectives, like meeting people in a level, and back then, that involved some complicated AI. That is true. Much of the game involved completing objectives, which was a key component of Super Mario 64, which came out a year prior, and that gave the team the idea to implement objectives in their own game, which is quite interesting considering they only had one more year before GoldenEye came out. So implementing all that, taking just 1 year, was amazing considering how involved that project was, considering how many delays it had. It started out in 1994 until 1997 when it released, going through a bunch of different iterations, a bunch of different changes, a bunch of different delays, only to turn this one particular change around within a year. Mind blown. Number 7, many elements are recycled from other parts of the game. The radar multiplayer mode is actually an oil drum texture. Really? I didn't know this. The shuttle scene reused satellite textures, and its takeoff imagery was powered by graphics from grenade explosions. That I knew. That one's a little obvious. That whole level was a big hack job, but it's one of the nicest looking, Carl admitted. Absolutely. And yeah, you can tell when you see the rocket launching into space from the Aztec complex level, one of the 2 bonus levels. It's fire coming out of it is really just reusing the explosions that happen when you throw grenades, shoot rockets, etc., etc. No pun intended with the rocket that launched in space, but like shooting out a rocket launcher. You know what I mean. Number 8. Most supporting characters were rendered from employees at Rare Studios. This I knew. Most everyone, aside from the studio owners, were scanned in for use in the game. At the start of each level, 5 faces from the collection are chosen at random. According to the 2011 interview, the entire development team are in there, and Carl Hilton remains rather proud of the manly scar added to his face. That's true. I always wondered about that because there's one character that has a big scar down his face, and I wondered if the developer actually had one or not, but apparently not. It was added in there, which gives it more of a Bond feel because a lot of Bond villains have scars down their face. Notably Ernst Stavro Blofeld. So that was a really nice touch, I thought. Number 9, and this one is pretty obvious. The game was extremely profitable. Of course it was. It's one of the best-selling games of all time. GoldenEye 007 cost Rare Studios an estimated $2 million in US dollars. It's a British studio, but they're measuring it in US dollars. $2 million to produce. It went on to gross over $250 million worldwide. Over 8 million copies of the game have been sold to date, making it the 3rd most popular title for the console behind Super Mario 64 and Mario Kart 64. For reference, the actual movie GoldenEye had a $60 million budget and brought in an estimated $350 million at the box office. Damn. Now, granted, the GoldenEye movie made $100 million more than the GoldenEye game, but the fact that only $2 million was spent on the game, turning a profit of $250 million. Let's do a little math here. Okay, so I did some math off camera and the results blew my mind like I thought they would. The movie made 5.83 times its budget in the box office, which is really good, but compared to the game, it made 125 times the revenue of that what was spent on the game. That is very difficult to pull off even then, and especially today, because games are a lot more expensive to make, obviously. And if games don't turn a profit, a massive hefty profit, they usually cause the studio to go out of business. But a profit margin like that is nothing to sneeze at all. And games were not as popular in 1997. Today, video games are the most popular form of entertainment, past movies now, but that was nowhere near the case. In those days, video games was still kind of a niche thing. It was nowhere near mainstream yet. So for it to turn that kind of profit, I mean, those numbers in themselves are really impressive, but the fact that that was pulled off in 1997 by an inexperienced team, no less, holy crap. I suggest you give GoldenEye a try. You'll see why it was that big of a success. Number 10. Multiplayer mode was a last-minute addition. That's right, possibly one of the most memorable parts of the game nearly never came to light. This I knew. Developer Steve Ellis was brought aboard in the final months of the project to add in cheat codes and extra details, but his most important contribution was easily multiplayer. According to Doak, Ellis sat in a room with all the code written for a single-player game and turned GoldenEye into a multiplayer game. Thank you, Steve. It said thank you, Steve, in the article, but I'm also saying thank you, Steve. I really appreciate that. But yeah, that is really amazing that GoldenEye multiplayer was added at the very last minute. But you know, I can kind of relate. As I mentioned earlier in this video, I took some game development classes, and a project that I worked on involved squirrels that were zombies going through a farm, feeding off other animals to survive. And when it came time for the first testing day of that course, we didn't have a workable product. And that night, I decided to stay in the computer lab and just work on an alternate game mode. We had a campaign mode, which is the main mode, but then I, without even discussing with my teammates, created ambush mode, where a bunch of enemy zombie squirrels surround you and come at you, and you fight them off one by one. And I had it ready for the next day for playtesting, and the entire class just kept lining up to play it. It was quite an amazing, I felt so good about myself. But like I said, game development isn't something that I'm necessarily interested in as a career long term, but it was, I don't know, I felt unstoppable. I felt like I could do it. So who knows? Maybe one day I'll make a game of my own for ASMR. We'll see. Now, before you ask, no, the game is not available because I lost the file that I needed without any backups, and nobody else had a copy, so unfortunately it's gone. Number 11, the cheat sheet. Plenty of games have hidden Easter eggs and cheat codes, but GoldenEye took the game to another level. Yeah, it did. Players will fondly remember gems such as Paintball Mode and Tiny Bond, all achievable through carefully choreographed combinations that, if done incorrectly, just make Bond look like he's busting out a brand new dance. I know what they're talking about. Of course, you can always just beat certain levels within a specified time and win these perks honestly, but come on now, just bust a move. It says. So I'm old enough to remember Nintendo Power and have had a subscription to Nintendo Power back in the day, and one of the issues had a list of the button codes to unlock these cheats, and I took advantage of them hardcore because when I started playing, I sucked, just like you would expect in any game, and I wanted to see all the levels with the invincibility cheat so that I can later play it legit and know what I'm doing. Yeah, I know. I probably should have played it before that to get the full experience, but what can you do now? And a little interesting fact about entering those button codes is if you enter them while you're in game, you turn on the cheats and it still counts as beating it legit. It only makes you replay the level if you turn on the cheats before entering the level. Like unlocking the cheats and the cheat options and then turning them on there and then entering a level. That doesn't allow you to progress if you play with those cheats. But if you enter the button codes within the level itself, that counts. The game sees it as being it legit. And the starting point of most levels are very safe. No one's going to attack you. So you start the level, enter the code, turn the cheat on, and you're on your way. Number 12, Flying Bond. Yep, it's more of a glitch, but still, this one was shared on GameSpot by user Miller C. Enable the tiny bond cheat, go to a staircase and crouch as far down as you can and walk off, and voila, Bond can fly. Try it at the frigate. I have seen footage of that being done, but I've never done it myself. I may need to give it a try, but yeah, definitely want to do it at the frigate and just fly out in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea, because it's at Monte Carlo, so it's on the Mediterranean Sea. Number 13, Secret Island. While designing the first level, programmers built an island that was meant to be reached by boat. The boat was removed, but the island remains. That is, if you have a Game Shark. Remember Game Sharks? I've actually never used a Game Shark, but I do remember it being a thing. The folks over at FamKam shared this tidbit. During the dam level, go the opposite side of the docks away from the place where you jump off. You can use your sniper rifle zoom and look around. While looking around, you will see an island slightly obscured by fog. Using a Game Shark and a no clipping code, you will be able to reach the island. That I may give a shot if I ever get my hands on a Game Shark. In fact, knowing this fact is probably going to motivate me to pick one up, because damn, I need to give this a shot. Number 14, Secrets of the Silo. This one comes from IGN. Again, it's more of a glitch, but still pretty freaking cool. This code requires that you have the invincibility cheat. Go the silo level with invincible bond on. Select the plastic explosives from your watch and throw it on the wall. Now shoot the explosives with your gun. Wherever you run, the explosions will follow you and kill everything in your path. This I knew, and this I've tried. I actually also tried it at the second bunker level, because in that level the GoldenEye fires on Severnaya and blows the place up. But if you're invincible, the explosions just keep happening in your face and the explosions follow you around wherever you go. It's also fun to turn turbo mode on along with invincibility, so that if you run really fast, you'll see the explosions are far away and they slowly move towards you. It's really quite amazing. And last but not least, number 15. There's a hidden emulator with 10 bonus games. That's right. There's a fully functional emulator for the ZX Spectrum system, complete with 10 original games. Getting to it is a bit of a pickle though. It was originally made as an experimental side project by Rare, but was deactivated in the final build. However, several fan-developed patches allow modern emulators to unlock the bonus content. I was really hoping that this would say that you can access it from the cartridge itself, but one can dream. And that is all the 15 facts about GoldenEye. If you haven't tried GoldenEye, I highly recommend that you pick it up. It is well worth it, even if they charge an exorbitant amount of money for it, because as we all know, a lot of retro games are super pricey these days, largely thanks to YouTubers and Twitch streamers popularizing them again, but it is what it is, and I feel like I'm now contributing to the problem, but whatever. But yeah, give this a shot. I'm sure you'll love it. And try out some of the 15 facts that are doable in the game. Why not? It'll be a joy. Thank you so much for watching, and happy 25th anniversary to GoldenEye 007 for the N64. I look forward to seeing you in the next video and or on a Twitch stream. And until then, as always, stay chill. Have a good night.